All right, welcome everyone to NAB 2024. I'm Matthias, aka Major VFX, here at the Maxon booth. Another amazing year. We have some of the most amazing artists in our lineup today. 4 days full of action-packed creativity. Wanted to thank you all for joining us, everybody online. We are streaming live on the Maxon's YouTube. Hi everybody, a lot of folks here today. And I have to say, I'm super excited. To my left, a longtime cinema user, creative, and one of the most influential, I'm gonna throw it out there, the most influential people in particles in my career. When I first started, this man inspired me so much in the world of particles and seeing particles in motion. And with all the new feature releases, particles is on everybody's mind. I'm gonna let you take it from here. Let's give a big, warm welcome, big Maxon welcome for Casey Hupke, everyone.
Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. My first presentation was with Maxon in 2012. Internet, help me out there. Go ahead and tell me if I'm wrong. Free. That's a free one. And it was on particles. And then since 2012, I've done, I think, 20-something different presentations with Maxon. They've been on particles, so I'm very, very excited to be doing the first presentation here at the booth, talking about the new particle system in 24.4. It's very impressive. There's so much that it has to do. I both feel like I don't have enough to show you and have too much to show you. And I was just thinking it'd be funny, what if I just do Chris's presentation instead of mine? Then he can do mine, and we'll trade places. But yeah, I'm Casey Hupke. I am a freelance creative director out in Los Angeles, East Side, Best Side. And let's go ahead and start off by just showing you my reel. You can see, whoa, that auto played. Thanks, media player. Love you, bro. I'm gonna hit full screen. This is just a collection of a bunch of projects that I've had the fortunate opportunity to work on over the last between 1 and 20 years. I forget how long it's been this time. I do more than particles too, by the way. Yay, it's my stuffs. Thank you. Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff that has weird-looking tunnels and particles, and it's been fun. But let's talk about some cinema stuff. So the first thing that I want to build with y'all is this isn't a spoiler. There was a part 2 to a movie called Dune. And there's these effects that happen in one of the moments where there's these really cool fireworks that have like these underwater like kind of concussive ink explosions. It's like an anti-firework, as I believe is what it was described as. And I saw it, and I was like, oh man, I bet I can recreate that in the new Cinema 4D particle system. And if you worked on these and you want to reach out to me and talk, I'd love to hear how you did them. This is how I think I would make something like that. And by no means am I trying to recreate it exactly. This is just a fun way for me to use a few simple tools and achieve what I think is a pretty cool effect. Okay, so we're going to need particles, and we're going to use some Pyro to advect those particles, and we want to have this really inky sort of like fluid shape. In the first round of particles that we have, the first iteration that I should say, there's no fluid system per se, but we have a really cool modifier called flock. Chris Schmidt pointed out a lot of really interesting things in his very long video about the flock modifier. So let's start just setting up a simple scene using Pyro, a emitter, and a couple little modifiers to get it started. And then let's sculpt it, shape it, shade it, and another one. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit, all right, we're just double checking that I'm staying on brand. Untitled1 is the name of my file. I'm not gonna hit save, and I'm gonna hit play. Okay, so we're gonna be working with dynamics, and dynamics function in real world units. So if you are to create, like, let's say we're gonna use a sphere as the base of our emitter. I'm gonna make that sphere, and it's like, okay, cool. Relatively to me, as John Q. Public, this sphere seems like a wonderful place to start as the basis of my Pyro sim. If I wanted to try to make a camera or a candle burn from this sphere, I'm going to have a massive fire. It's really realistically going to be a car on fire. So it's very good to work in real-world units as much as possible. It helps and it's beneficial for lighting, rendering, physics, everything. You have a couple ways you can do this. There is a helpful person who I very much enjoy working with. Their name is Figure, and they're a relative-sized person. And it's great to have them around. Another thing in the asset browser is this fun object, a banana. And as we all know, bananas are great for scale. So if you compare the size of the banana to the size of the figure, you can kind of start working in real-world units just like that. There's an SDS on this banana. We don't need that. But okay, cool. So we have some scale units in here to help us along our way to building this underwater sonic ink explosion. Let's get into it. I'm gonna hit Shift-C. I'm gonna make a sphere as the basis of my both particle and Pyro emitter. First, we're gonna start with the Pyro. We're gonna use Pyro because I like the way that organic dynamics function. I like using real physical things to generate motion. So let me just frame up on this. I'm trying not to hit the Windows key. I'm a Mac user, so my thumb keeps going for the Windows key to where the Alt would be. That was just in my head, and I had to get it out. Okay, let's add a Pyro emitter. And for anyone who's new to Cinema 4D, for anyone who may just be walking by going like, wow, that dude's loud, what's he yelling about? I'm using this thing called the Commander. This is a tool that you can invoke by hitting Shift-C, and it basically searches through every tag, object, modifier, everything that is inside the Cinema 4D system. It's there at your fingertip. I forget where things are in the menu, so this is how I basically, Google my way through every feature in the software. Okay, back to this. We're going to put the Pyro emitter on the sphere that we have selected here. So I'm just going to double-click, and you're going to see a couple things are created. We have our basic properties of our tag of the Pyro system. We're going to leave all of these just as default. We're not going to make any changes here. All the changes that we're ever going to make to our Pyro system for our purposes are going to happen over here within the Pyro scene. There's our Pyro and particles and simulation. I do every change that I'm going to do over here. So this is generally where I hang out to control my various particles. Let's give this a name, or just in case we ever want to look back at it, and let's call it Splosion. Splodens. Splosion. Great. No notes. All right, so let's do the fun thing. Hit F8. So it's playing. We have some fire. It is burning very hot. It's just a regular smoky plume of fire. But that's not really going to do like an explosion or give me the motion that I want. So when I think about the underwater explosion, it's going to be like a thing that like sucks in and plumes out and does this like inkwell thing. So what I go is, where my brain goes is, we're underwater, so gravity shouldn't behave the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my Pyro scene, and I'm just going to go to the scene section. And right here we have negative 981 centimeters of gravity. Science, folks, I think that's how the force of gravity actually works. I don't know. I'm just going to put it to 0, and we're going to make our own individual gravities as we need them. But now this is functioning at 0 gravity. We see the Pyro and the smoke just go whoop and pop, and it's doing its thing. But Now I want it to explode out. So how can I do that? I'm going to use a modifier. My voice cracked. I've gone full Morty, guys. Oh, man. I need to use an attractor for this. So I'm going to use an attractor. And the attractor is going to draw in the forces, or draw in the fluids that are being created by the Pyro object towards the center of this sphere. I'm going to crank this up a little bit. So that way the fluids go in and out the other side, and they're pushing against each other, making these really cool like plumes and plorps. You can see them like kind of popping out. The other thing I noticed in the explosions was that there was this sort of like shell that occurred on the outside. It kind of seemed like everything happened in this cool bubble. So I'm just going to make another buddy sphere. Let's name this one sphere.emitter. No. Yeah. Emit's cool. And then let's make another one. And this sphere is going to be our outer shell. We'll call this sphere collide outer. And I'm going to hit Shift-C on this, and I'm just going to make this a collider. Not this. We'll get to this little guy right here. This is a new object in 24.4, and it's a specific modifier that works with a particle system to allow it to do surface-space interactions. We'll come back to that. I'm going to add that collision here. Now you'll notice that all my fluids stay contained in this sphere, but we can't see anything because the sphere is on. This is the last time we're really going to need to see this sphere, so I'm just going to double-click both of these and turn them off. You can see Pyro's exploding out, doing its thing. Let's create a new emitter. This is going to be a mesh emitter in the new particle system. So you can see how the particles are like junting out and getting kind of wild. I like that. I like that a lot. Let me increase the voxels even more. That's too big. 13 maybe? Okay, that's cool. All right, and then turbulent strength may have gotten a little too big. But if I play with the vorticity, you can see that the amplification of the curls will start to get a little bit more wild, the higher values it is. And the lower values will actually give me more curly, wispy tendrils, which is what I want for ink. So let's go ahead and hit Shift-C on this. And we're going to do a mesh emitter. Mesh emitter. I'm going to hit Enter, and it's going to create some stuff for me. Or it's not going to do anything at all. Fun! Mesh emitter. There we go. Boom. It doesn't have any geometry, even though I had this sphere selected. So I'm going to drop that into there. And now our particles are flying around like lunatics. Like they have no chill. They've been drinking Monsters since 4 a.m. and they are ready to Vegas like nobody else. I can't keep up with them. And the reason this is happening is because this modifier affects everything in the dynamic system. And I'm telling the particles that are coming from the sphere to get attracted very strongly through the center and get shot at the other side. So without doing some complicated stuff and rebuilding a whole simulation scene, I'm going to do something kind of cheeky and create a new particle group. This is a new particle group object, basically. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this, we're just going to call this secret. This is just between us. And what I'm going to do here, so this particle group has no associations to any emitter. The emitter creates the particles and puts it into the particle group. And the particle group is basically, it's more or less like the old thinking particles particle geometry. You can think of this as where the particles live, what they do, who is their daddy, and what they do exists in this particle group. That was a kindergarten cop reference. If you didn't catch that, you should see the movie. It's worth it. So I'm going to put the attractor in here, and you'll notice that the particles in our primary inky explosion group no longer consider that effect at all. So the next thing that I want to do is add in a whole bunch more particles, like a lot of particles. Let's see how much this little puppy can take. Because I'm doing the Pyro 2, and our viewport performance is already a little low right now. And this is an M1 Mini, by the way. This is not like an M2 Studio Ultra. This is like a super old little tiny Apple TV, effectively. And things are running relatively quick. IMO. So we got nothing going on. The particles are just going, wee. What I want to do to give them a little bit of like inky fluid-like motion is I'm going to use this massive modifier that's been created called flock. Chris Schmidt explained a bunch of really cool things about the flock modifier to me. Originally, I was like, oh, I don't really need like a Boyd system. I don't really like do birds or stuff like that. And then Chris showed me some things, and I was like, holy moly, flock might not be the right name. This thing's like the do everything and interact plugin. So let's make that. It's flocking cool. Flock modifier. Pretty solid icon, too, as far as icons go. So this is going to be in our particle group. And let's go ahead and look at some of the parameters. So cohesion strength. Cohesion strength is going to be how these particles... my disk was ejected improperly. It's going to be how the particles get pulled together. And it's going to kind of clump them a little bit. If I increase the strength of the flocking, you can see things are getting kind of like stuck together and doing their thing. I'm going to go ahead now and give our particles a little bit of extra movement by using another modifier called advect. This is like probably the simplest way to do advection in like any package really, or any like little system. So I have my advection. All right, let me get the files off this thing. Could you guys try plugging the drive back in? Malware. Oh, dang it. Okay, let's get back to this. Pyro advect. I would like this file to the desktop. Okay, so what we're going to do, because we're eating a lot of time right now, is I'm going to go ahead and open up the file. You bet you guys didn't think I ever saved this. And just in case, I had one saved called Ink Bomb. And we're going to go ahead and look at how this was set up, how I built, what I have done and built here. Close all of these fun pop-ups. Okay, so I'm going to turn off some stuff. We have the Pyro advection on here. And let's go ahead and hit play. So here's our Pyro advected particles kind of blowing up using, I changed their emission type to pulse, and I'm pulsing out a certain amount and having a duration of 2-frame pulse with a gap of 40. So every basically 40 frames, we're getting this like ploop, plorp, pleep. And Pyro advection is taking over, creating what I think looks pretty inky, pretty wispy, and was getting very close to kind of like the vibe that I was going for. The next thing I'm doing here is I'm mapping a color using the color mapper, and I'm extracting the velocity parameter of X and putting this gradient on there. So let me go ahead and just turn this on. And what that's doing is like, this is getting us this like cool rolling white emissive detail that's moving through. And it's helping, add black level, add contrast, add some blue, and make just like kind of like a nice rolling color. The next thing that I'm doing here is I'm using a surface attract. A surface attract basically asks for, where a collider body is, or where a other interactive objects are that it needs to think about. And it can do a follow, attract, or land. So let's just show off what they individually do. So surface attract, now that I've turned it on, what the particles should do is move towards the outside edge, that bubble that I wanted to create, our candy shell, if you will. And they'll kind of go over there and like chill. You can increase the strength and see it kind of like get that edge a little bit more. If I turn this on land, you'll see it kind of like suck the particles in, and as they get close, they kind of stick to the edge. You can play with like the fall off for that, for the strength or like the distance that it happens, and then they'll just kind of get stuck as they get within that range to land on the surface. It's nice. I like it a lot. So I'm going to crank this up a little bit to make it ride that shell. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the flock modifier into this. Oh, I hit save. I broke trend. I'm going to add flock. Boop, 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 boop. And now flock is going to it's going to start making the particles aware of each other and aware of their positioning. And it's going to give a little bit of like a gumminess or a gooiness. So I'm going to do some dramatic numbers here, just to get illustrative. It's going to slow things down, but it really helps like get this extra level of gloopiness that I think helps push the ink effect a little bit more. Let's go ahead and go back into my Pyro. I think when I tweaked this one, I made the vorticity a little bit too small, so I'm just going to increase this. Yeah, there we go. We've got our inky plumes happening. Let's turn down our separation radius maybe a little bit too. Just kind of trying to get those particles to hold together and get like some stringiness going on. And then if we go ahead and hit our RS render view, hit play, just show you we're basically just doing a very simple material. I'm going to open my material manager inside our RS standard. All I'm taking is the RS color, and I'm pumping it into the color, and then I'm pumping it into the emission color. Like a very simple system. Let's turn this dome light on so that way we can see what's going on in the background. Beep, boop, beep, boop. Let's go progressive. So I have them really, really small, and the idea would be that, just render this out with millions of particles, and you'll end up with that nice inky look. Add some motion blur on there. I think some post effects got snuck into this whole thing. Well, anyway, this was the build out of this inky system in several parts. Hit play again to show. I think it's pretty cool. Let's actually go back and just do another simple scene. We're going to create a sphere. It's too big. And I'm going to create a mesh emitter. And I'm going to create a turbulence. And I'm going to change the scale. And I'm going to change the strength. And I'm going to my mesh emitter. And I'm going to like and subscribe on that 0. And just put a whole bunch of them in there. And then let's add some more time to here. 120, 920. And then let's add, just to show you how the flock modifier is creating that inky look, I'm going to add the flock. And actually, let's change the mesh emitter to be just a pulse, so it's emulative of our firework. Just smash the. Honestly, I feel like the default values for all the emitters, you could smash like 4 extra zeros on there. Like it's so low. Gap 60. There we go. And let's have them die. Under properties, I'm going to set the lifetime. Let's do 12 with a lifetime variance of 14. Boosh. Kaboosh. All right, so that we have our base set up here. Go to our flock, and let's just like abuse the cohesion. Maybe they're dying too quickly. 30. So yeah, when you start playing with the flock modifier and the cohesive strength and separation distance and like the strength of the flocking itself, you can start to like get these like faux fluid effects. And this paired with let's just do it again real quick. Pyro emitter, advection, Pyro advect, and then let's go to our Pyro output here and just scroll down to draw and have it turn off. And then we can look at our very simplified, in our new scene, inky particle curls with our flock modifier added on. Let's turn the strength up more. You can see how they're kind of like really blurpy, and they get like these nice veins and tendrils and stuff to them. I was having a lot of fun with it. That's just the flock. So that very simple, just a couple little things: pyro, flock, turbulence. And the last thing I want to walk through is just kind of like a walkthrough of like how the whole system works. So I've created this scene, and I've got everything off for now. And we're just gonna kind of go through and click things on in the order that I built them. This file is effectively just building. Oh, let's open the version 2. Look, there's our figure. He's hanging out. We're gonna open this here dimensional rift using Pyro and some rigid body colliders. It's going to tear through space-time, creating a spiral nebula with this cool like motion designy tunnel that our camera could go diving through if we wanted to. We're switching particle groups. We're adding new forces. We've got millions of particles going here. And it's just a really, really fun system. Like, you should have been on. So yeah, let's go ahead into the other file, walk through how it's being built. The first thing, how I start off almost all of my files or scenes or anything I'm ever doing with particles, is a Pyro object. So we have, to create our portal, we are using a torus to be the opening guider. It's animating out, and it's kind of uniform. So I went ahead and just created a displacer, and then in this displacer object's deforming the geometry. Let's nail that word. We're gonna fix that one in edit. Go to our shading. We just have an animated layer here, and all I'm doing is masking the edges a little bit and doing some animated noise. Super simple stuff. The devil is not in those details. Again, you're gonna see this little super secret group. We're not gonna tell anyone about it, but this is where I'm putting some pyro forces, some forces that I want to just impact my pyro. So let's go ahead and turn them all on. I'm doing the same thing like I was before. I'm creating a dramatic attractor that's sucking the forces in, that's sucking the pyro into the middle. I'm creating, and then, oh yeah, let's turn this collider on too. This one's important. This is just a cylinder up at the top that's just pushing everything out to create that open vacuum of space, including the pyro. So, run it back to the beginning. We have a rotation that's spinning the pyro. We have turbulence adding a little bit of noise, and we have an attractor that's sucking everything back in. And then I'll like kind of let the pyro play out here. You can see that it's creating sort of a kind of spiral nebula effect, you know, trying to emulate what's going on in a physical space a little bit. Okay, so we got that going. We are happy with our pyro. I'm going to go into my pyro, and I'm going to turn off the draw so we can focus on the particles and not see the pyro. Turn off draw pyro. We also, we don't need to see our displacer anymore. And let's go ahead and hit back. And let's get particle. We're going to do a mesh emitter that's emitting from our torus object, our torus pyro dot emitter. And it's going to have a group that I'm calling advected particles. So let's just hit play. It's nothing. It's chill, doing its thing. It's interacting with nothing at the moment. And what we want to do first is we want to give it all the collision objects that the other scenes have. So we're going to turn on this collider. And this collider is going to tell the particles to recognize that there's a big beefy cylinder in the middle. And you should respect that. So that's going to do its thing. And also, let's go ahead and turn on our advection. All right, so our advection's on, and things are just going to start exploding crazily because I'm using all these like wild dynamic forces. But as the advection starts to pick up, you can see the particles themselves, like, you know, getting some undulating motion, getting funky. Things don't look very good, so I'm going to use the color mapper using velocity speed to map a black to white gradient across the particles. Let's just go ahead and enable that. So, you know, we can see the particles that are in the center have a different color because they're super chill as compared to the particles on the outside. Now we're going to get to this really, really cool thing that we have going on inside of the new system. Conditions. Conditions are statements and moments. It's a conditional thing. In this, I'm going to say, all right, so everything that goes too fast, I don't want that anymore. If it's greater than this, let's do something else with it. Let's like give it chill. So I'm going to turn on this condition, and then this is another modifier called switch group. So I'm saying everything, and now you can see those particles are selected. These particles they meet this condition and are now isolated, and they're switching to a new group called tunnel. And in tunnel, what I want to do is I want to create this sort of like different simulation system. So I'm also going to have them reproduce because I want to have like a whole bunch of particles chunking out. Where the reproduced particles are going to change and leave all context of the other groups and form this new one called streams. So I'm going to enable the particle group streams. You're going to see now you can see the particle colors have changed because they have met those conditions. Then I'm going to make a new color mapper to make our streams group very, very visible. And I'm just going to, I'm mapping it over noise so I can have a little bit of animation so it has like a blinky starry environment going on. So let's go ahead and enable that. Boom, immediately. You can see we've asked the particles for a condition of your velocity being greater than 2200, switched it to a new group called tunnel, reproduced those particles into a series of new groups, and given it some more rules. But I want to do some cool stuff with them. So I'm going to go ahead and enable this gravity. This gravity is exclusive to our tunnel group. So now you'll see the particles start falling that are in that group. Let's jump back to the beginning so we can see like the whole thing like expand out and do its thing. All right, so the tunnel group is doing that stuff. Let's turn on our friction to give them a little bit of friction and a little bit of rotation. All right, running it back. The particles in the middle, these are going to be like the vortex main leading motion activity that draw us into the whole portal concept. The stuff on the outside is just like, you know, the time-space continuum tearing open, and we really care about this cool spiral that we created in the middle. So all that stuff that's happening in the middle is ignoring our Pyro advection, but it's all birthed from that same particle system earlier. Okay, now let's build onto this system with some more conditions. So we forked all the particles in that earlier setup and made that tunnel group. So we're going to do something different here. We're going to check the magnitude of the velocity if it's less than 20. So everything that's kind of chilling out. Like if this particle is kind of like, I'm kind of lazy. That's my kind of particle. We're going to go ahead and do a few things. So we're going to, let's enable this condition. The next thing that happens once you've met this condition is I'm going to switch you into a new group. And I'm going to do this, I'm switching to a new group called environment. Let's make that group active. We can now see it. It's these plus marks. I've changed their UI display. So that way we can see we're creating new particles. And these particles exist on just the rim of the portal. These particles are doing their own little animations on the rim. Again, this is all coming from one emitter. Like, normally how I would set this type of thing up is 12 different emitter systems that are all doing something uniformly. And I was like, I can use one emitter and all of these conditions to kind of like create all these different interactions. So some of the environment stuff just lives too long. So I'm making a new condition. If you're over 40, you're out. So basically, just enabling a kill. Kill is really great because it just has a chance. I love that kill has a chance. Like, it's supposed to be so Boolean and effective. It's like, oh yeah, kill, that makes sense. Or did it? So you can play with the amount of kill that you have. I just wanted to kill some of the particles in that condition. All right, next up, outside of that, everything that's in the environment group still, I wanted to do something interesting. I wanted to just like kind of like hug the wall of the outer group of particles or a collider body and just kind of make like a column, because every motion designer knows a rule. At some point in your project, you have to move very quickly through a tunnel. And that tunnel needs to have dots and lights and stuff. So like, if you don't do this, you're messing up. There's gotta have a tunnel. So we're gonna do a surface attract, and it's referencing our cylinder back at the top. I'm gonna hit rewind. And then let's go ahead and use a color mapper. I'm gonna use another gradient just so we can see a difference in there. I'm gonna turn that on. Boom, so you can see these particles are the particles that are on the outside, and I do have that on right, yes, coolio. So now we've got a new set of particles that are creating this sort of like interesting environment. I'm gonna give them some turbulence. I'm gonna give them some gravity, and I'm gonna give them a kill. So these particles, I just want kind of bubbling around on the outer edge. So now you can see we have this extra layer of like purple and black glowy particles that are flying around on the edge. And I'm using a kill with a variable chance again, only a 5% chance to kill, just killing off some of them. And then this final condition, because everything's just blowing out like so far. It's just so big. I just want a general, let's go ahead and just start collapsing some of these conditions. And this condition is just 100%, if you're outside of this boundary, you die. You dead. Let's solo. So you're gonna see things that go out that are in other groups that are not listening to this condition, but that's fine. So now, we will have everything just spinning and doing its thing. We have our purple frothy particles, we have the smoky particles towards the inside, everything cools off as it goes towards the outside. We have our particles that flow down like, tunnel-like down the middle. And, from here, it's just all about taking our data and adding our redshift tags and particle setups to the groups. We would put a material on this advected group. We would put a material on this streams group. And I love that you get a visual feedback in the viewport that isolates them for you. Like the elegance of the way this was implemented, how this was built, it's as a first pass is so well done, like just thoroughly blown away. I think Maxon, like just, they hit the football out of the park on that one, or the cricket. So yeah, that's it. No notes, I'm out. Thank you. I have 4 minutes to spare. Oh, I thought you were fist bump. Oh, dang.
We can.
Whew, cut that out.
We can fist bump. It's fine. We can fist. There it is. And you have time because we have to make up for the power outage. So that's the thing. So let's give great Casey another round of applause here. And if you have questions, and I'm sure you do, because it's a lot of information to process here. Do we have any questions from our audience? Wow, no questions. So I'll start with one. So what is one thing that you did with particles in the past that was really challenging for you that you find with the new tools that you're excited about when it comes to workflow?
Oh man, I remember making this rig. I shared it once I shared a screenshot of this espresso rig I made for a thinking particle system that just changed shaders based on velocity. It was something so simple. Like the color of the object would change based on its velocity. And it was this gnarly linked list with like 38 different materials that changed on the object as they went different speeds. It's something that was so impossible to do, and now you're just like, oh yeah, just like ask the velocity of what it's doing and then pack the color over here. Also, when I were a kid and we used to do particles uphill both ways, when you did stuff like this that was moving really fast, you would see the emitter move and the particles would emit randomly based where the emitter was. And you'd have to calculate the velocity that point was moving at and do some subframe emissions that weren't really subframe emissions to emit smoothly. Everything now just emits continuously, and you could have the fastest moving null object going, and you'll always have a consistent stream of particles. It was just built in and set up. It was great.
As this evolves, what do you see as far as application for particles now with the new system?
I don't know. There's so much. I saw on the social network formerly known as Twitter, now X, this person had dropped a scene where they dropped in a whole bunch of particles using the predator and prey system, and they played out a whole battle royale simulation. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, but it was a great post. They hunt each other down and shoot at each other with other particles, and the map closes like Fortnite until there's one standing at the end, and it was all in one simple setup. I think they might have posted the file.
Wow.
But it was super cool. I think,
That's awesome.
where we go, like, fluids and stuff in the future, maybe, like, it's, sky's the limit.
Very exciting. We had a question from the audience.
In the base emitter, I can turn it down. It's rather high.
You want to repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question was that the performance was a little chuggy right now.
This is on a Mac Mini, folks. So for those of you who are wondering, it's not super powered because we had a power issue on the other machine. So this is a Mac Mini. So what you're seeing is on, pretty. It's your basic design machine, not necessarily your the powerhouse version. This isn't even the powerhouse version of the Mac.
I'm basically presenting on an iPad. There's no global spot, but your emitter base object will always have it under the rate. But that's a cool idea, though, to have basically like a level of detail global slider, or a scene limit, that you could set, something like that. Yeah, I can see that.
So we have product managers here. We can go chat them up, getting feature requests as we roll in. So if we have any other questions from our live audience, awesome. Casey will be in the back here for another hour. So if you have questions, you'll be able to reach him. And where can they reach you online if they wanted to chat some more?
There's this Reddit called R Outside, and it's like a bunch of people writing about the world as like it's an MMO, and they'll be like, hey, this new patch where it's cold all the time is really bumming me out. I spend a lot of time there. I'm on the MoGraph Discords and the MoGraph Slacks. I'm 0xkcx on Twitter, xkcx.com, and you can email me, xkcx@me.com, if I did anything wrong or you have questions about this.
Did it wrong. All right, let's give him another round of applause. We're going to be taking a quick break here and getting ready for our next presenter, so stay tuned for Sasha Vinogradova.